What's up guys, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's tutorial I would be sharing how to make a hip pad onto your shorts, and the good thing about this is that you can easily wear this underneath any of your dresses. So this is what it looks like on the inside. You can see the hip pads well placed on the inside of the shorts. If this is something you want to learn how to do, then you should see this video up until the very end. If you haven't subscribed, please click on the subscribe button and let us jump straight into this video. To begin this tutorial, I would be making use of this fabric. It is a lightweight crepe, and I chose this because this is something I'm going to be wearing inside my dress and I don't want to make use of a very thick fabric. Next, I've also got my pattern paper and my pattern drafting materials. Also, I have this fiber here. I'm going to be using fiber for this. You can also make use of foam, but for this particular tutorial, I'll be making use of fiber. And it is about 1 inch in dimension, 1 inch in thickness. So now let us proceed to drafting our pattern. To begin, I'm going to be marking my crotch depth measurements. So this is going to be a short. I'm marking my crotch depth measurement of 10 inches. Next, I'm going to be marking the length of the short, and I'm going for 15 inches. I'm going to be rolling them down into a straight line. Afterwards, I would be marking 8 inches, which is my waist to hip measurement. I would also connect the points together. On my crotch line, which is the second line right here, I would be marking 1/4 of my hip measurement. So because of the fiber that I would be adding to this hip pad, I would need to add up to my actual hip measurement. And the number of inches you would add to your actual hip measurement would depend on the thickness of the fiber you're using. So since I'm using a 1 inch fiber, I'll just add an extra 1 inch to my measurement right there. So I'm just going over to add the 1/4 of my hip measurement and my crotch extension. I'm using 1.5 for my crotch extension. On the waistline, I'll be marking 1/4 of my hip measurement on the waistline. I'll connect both points together. Next up, I'm going to be drawing in my crotch curve. After that, I will be marking 1/4 of my waist measurement from that line. I would create my hip curve. I'll be connecting my hip curve to join on the hip line. Moving on, I'll be marking 2 inches beneath the crotch line, and this would be the hip line. After that, I'll be getting the midpoint of the entire measurement I have on the crotch line, mark that same measurement on the new tie line and also on the full length line. On my tie line, I'm going to be marking 1/4 of my tie round measurement on either side, on both sides of that midpoint. So what this means is that I've marked half of my tie round measurement. On the full length, I'll just deduct about half an inch from the measurement that I have on my tie round measurement. I'll be connecting all the points together. So for now, I am done with the front pattern. I'll proceed to cut this out. This is what my pattern is looking like for the front. Moving on to the back, I'll be placing this on a fresh part of my pattern paper. I will be pinning this down, and I'm doing this so that I can draft the back. I'll be needing separate patterns for the back. Here I'm going over to rule out my lines, and I'm marking half an inch beneath the crotch line. That's because the back crotch is always lower than the front crotch by half an inch. I'm also marking out the other lines. On the back waistline, I'll be marking 2.5 inches allowance, and I'm marking this much because I did not add any seam allowance to the front pattern. So this would cover for both the front and the back. On the crotch line for the back, I'll be marking 3.5 inches. The extra 1 inch is for ease allowance along the crotch. And on the tie line, I'll be marking 2.5 inches. I'll also be marking 2.5 inches on the hem line too. Afterwards, I'll go ahead and connect all of the points together. After that, I also traced the side of my front pattern, making sure I highlight my tie line and my crotch line and also the full length line. Next, I also went ahead to raise the back waistline by 1 inch. This is what we do for our normal trouser pattern. After I was done with that, I removed the front pattern, cut out the back pattern. And guys, this is what I have. The next thing I would do is to drop the front waistline by 0.75 inch. Next, I'll be taking off that excess. So guys, this is the pattern that I'm going to be working with for both the trouser and also for the hip parts. So before I would work on the hip part, I'm going to be cutting this out on my main fabric. First of all, cut out 2 pieces for the front and 2 pieces for the back, then use the same pattern to work on the hip part. So guys, I have cut it out and here is my fabric pieces. I added seam allowance to the waistline and also to the hem, and I repeated likewise for the back pattern too. It is now time to work on our hip parts, and I'm going to be using this same pattern. So you see why I need to cut out on my main fabric first of all. On my crotch line, that midpoint that I have on my crotch line, which was about 5.25 inch, this is my front pattern, bear it in mind. I'll be placing that same measurement on the hip line. Next, I'll move on to the waistline and mark 1 inch beneath the waistline. From that 1 inch, I'm going to be marking the length of this hip pad, and I want it to be about 13 inches long. So I'll just mark that down right there. What I'll need to do is to connect from my 1 inch all the way to the midpoint, all the way down to the length. So this is me using my pencil to create a draft. And once I'm comfortable with what I have, I will then use my pattern master to smoothen the edges. So guys, this is what my hip pad for the front is looking like. So here I'm just placing my front pattern on the back pattern to be able to mark out the hip line on the back pattern since I did not mark it out earlier. So here I'm just confirming to be sure I have the right measurements. I'll square that line down. To draft out the hip pad for the back pattern, I'll be marking 1 inch beneath the waistline, and I would also confirm the length of the pattern, which is 13 inches for the hip pads rather. So I'll mark it down also. Then on the hip line, the back pattern is going to be wider than that of the front on the hip line. And for the back, I am using 6.5 to 7 inches. So I later settled for 7 inches. So my pattern at the back is wider by about 1.5 inch compared to the front. On the tie line, I'm going to be marking about 3.5 inches. So I'll connect from that 1 inch down to the 7 inches I have on the hip line, and then smoothing it down to my 3.5 inches on the tie line, and then complete it on the full length line. So this is me just trying to create a very nice curve. After highlighting my hip pad pattern, this is what I have. So here I'm labeling my back and the front. Next, I'll be cutting this out from my main pattern, from the main trouser pattern. So guys, I have both the front and the back pattern. At this point, my hip pad pattern is ready, and I would be cutting them out on the fiber, 2 pieces of each, 2 pieces of the front and 2 pieces of the back, and I have it here all cut out. So as you can see, I have the front and the back all placed side by side, and I've also gone ahead to mark them out. So what I'll do next is to iron in a lining just to cover up the face of the fiber so it doesn't rip apart, and I'm going to be using a hemming gum to place this lining onto the surface of the fiber. This is what my e-pad is looking like after I was done ironing the lining on top. I have the front and the back. This is me placing the pattern for easy identification. Also, I left about 0.75 inch as a seam allowance that I would use to attach to the trouser or the shorts that we are working on. So guys, I've gone ahead to do a trial on one part of the trouser and I love the outcome. I've attached the e-pad to this part of my trouser and I love the way it came out. And I'm going to be illustrating what I did. So this is me picking a part of my trouser. This is the back that I picked, and I've picked the pattern that is going to the back. I will be attaching it to the side of my trouser pattern in this manner, making sure that I use my pin to place it down. After pinning it all down, I'll proceed to my sewing machine and sew it down along the edge and also all around. I would repeat likewise for this other pattern too. This is me right here on my sewing machine where I am stitching the pad to my trouser. This is the back. After sewing it all around, I would also stitch down the sides. So guys, after I was done, this is what it looks like. I'll be grabbing my front pattern, the one I've already stitched together, join it together, making sure I place right sides against each other. I'll go ahead and sew it together along the sides. After sewing, this is what I have. You can see the hip area already coming out. Next, I'll be repeating likewise for the other piece of my trouser. This is what they look like after I was done stitching. So I have one side and the other side. Next, I'll be joining both sides together along the crotch area. So this is the front, placing right sides against each other. I will be closing the front crotch area. I would also be finishing off the inseam area. I will be fixing my zipper too along the zipper allowance I left at the back, and also finish off the waistline with a bias tape. And guys, this is the outcome of what I just illustrated. This is what my hip pad is looking like. It is a short. This is what it looks like on the inside. You can take it a step further by interlocking the raw edges to have a very clean and perfect finish. So you can see that the inside is also concealed. You're not seeing the fiber. And the good thing about this is that you can wear this underneath your dress. You don't have to make separate hip pads for your dress. If you found this tutorial helpful, please give it a huge thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, please click on the subscribe button, turn on your notifications, and I would see you all in my next video. Goodbye and stay blessed.